la manera del diablo, porque el diablo te va a enseñar con los soldados de él qué puede hacer y cómo lo puede hacer, porque a él no le importa de nada más para matar, enterrar todo lo que es bueno. Acuérdate que te dije la fecha, los países de los negritos, sí, y le digo, la guerra del diablo,
This is AMTV News. I'm your host, Topher Morrison. Today is Wednesday, July 11th, 2012. If it bleeds, it leads. Russian warships to maneuver near Syria. Bashar al-Assad looks like he has a new pit bull. Protecting its last ally in the Middle East, but most importantly its access to the Mediterranean, Russia is sending a flotilla of 11 Russian warships, capable of carrying hundreds of Marines to dock in the ancient port of Tartus. It is a clear message to the region and the U.S. backing rebel forces in Syria. Washington is predictably mum, but with poker faces aplenty. Is it call or check? This is AMTV News. I'm your host, Topher Morrison. Today is finally Friday the 13th of July 2012. War drums. U.S. sends 4th aircraft carrier to Persian Gulf. Along with a fleet of Seafox drone submersibles, the aircraft carrier USS John C. Stennis will join the Eisenhower, Lincoln, and Enterprise in the Persian Gulf. It's an unexpected show of extraordinary force and comes on the heels of a 12,000-troop, 19-nation, massive military drill imitating a Middle East invasion. U.S. raises, Iran, your bet.
Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching Green Wave TV Alternative Media Television. It is June 1st, 2012. I wanted to do this in more of a mini-doc format, but because time is of the essence and war could be declared literally at any moment, I'm going to do the best I can to deliver this off the cuff, give you the critical information that you need, and so that you understand what's happening in the world geopolitically as well as our financial markets at this given point in time. There's an article I want every single one of you to read. I'm going to flash the cover of Time magazine. This is the recent issue that came out May 28th. It's got a picture of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. They're calling him King Bibi. King. Notice how they call him a king. These people are no longer elected officials. And it says, will he make war or will he make peace? Now we need to read between the lines here because this is a mainstream media propaganda piece. Time magazine, millions of people, millions of Americans read this, millions of people around the world. In fact, they had a Time magazine article before the preemptive strike on Iraq linking Saddam Hussein to 9/11 and to that tragic terrorist act. That later came out to be improved. Completely false. In fact, President Bush himself has even been on camera saying, hey, we never said that. We never said Saddam Hussein was linked to the terrorist attack of September 11th. So this is what you need to primarily understand. At any moment, we're going to wake up. And I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict the future. I don't have a crystal ball. But we could have an event. We could have another false flag terrorist attack. We could have a suitcase bomb go off in an American city or go off in a country around the world. But we're going to wake up and we are going to read the major headlines, and it's going to be Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launching an aggressive strike that's going to lead our country and this world to the next great global conflict, which I believe will be World War III. Now, something to note, and if you read this Time magazine article, they're positioning it as if this will be a unilateral strike by Israel. Unilateral, meaning they will be acting independently and solely striking Iran. This is not true. This is bullshit. Read between the lines and understand this as propaganda. Let me repeat. Any strike by Israel against Iran or Syria, any strike is not a unilateral strike. It is a bilateral strike. And a strike by Israel is a strike by the United States of America. Also, I've talked about the timeline on these Iran sanctions. Notice today, June 1st, 2012, the sanctions on Iran regarding their oil contracts and how they trade their oil exports goes in effect today. This is an economic act of war. And so countries around the world, the other big players, namely countries like Russia, China, the BRICS, emerging markets, have to decide whether or not they're going to continue doing business with Iran. If they choose to do so, which it appears that they do, the superpowers like Russia, China, and India, that is a declaration of war on the United States of America. That gives our country incentive, or at least that's how they're going to pitch it to the mainstream sheeple, for an attack on Iran. Also notice, and this was actually exposed in the Time magazine article, that Iran, we have already been implementing sanctions, economic sanctions on their central bank for months now. This has created a cataclysm in the localized economy of Iran. It's created hyperinflation of 75%. This is according to Time magazine, 75%. You know, we talk about economic collapse all the time. This is economic collapse. Iran has been devastated economically. They have nothing left to lose. Again, I've always talked about how this is the boiling pot of water and that at some point it won't be able to be contained. So critical to understand, and we're seeing this in our capital markets as well, even though that really isn't the big story. Europe's collapsing. Greece is on fire. In fact, an article and a few other sources that came out through Russia Today as well as a few other outlets said that they are starting to trade through Bloomberg investment machines the drachma. And they tested that out earlier this morning, which shows you that they are planning for a revaluation of Greece back to a national currency. That is going to drive Greece into civil war. There's going to be a lot of chaos. It's going to set a very dangerous precedent for the Eurozone. The Eurozone itself is collapsing. So we have to understand the confluence of events and put yourself in the driver's seat. Say you're President Obama. Say you're the bankers. Say you're the powers that be. Say you're Israel. You are going to drive not just the collapse of the Eurozone, not just the collapse of Greece, but you are also going to accelerate war in coordination with that. We're going to have a collapse of Europe, and we're going to have an aggressive war with Iran, and more than likely in Syria. I believe this will be the full-blown engagement of the next great war that we will unfortunately be living through during the 21st century, which will cost millions more people's lives and millions more civilians to be killed. It is critical that we understand the motivations of our government and that we read between the lines of the propaganda. It has been the agenda all along to destabilize the Middle East. It's exactly why we've been in Iraq. It's exactly why we've been in Afghanistan, and we've built our bases so that we can quickly and readily deploy troops to neighboring countries, Iran and Syria. This has been the objective all along. Also, the objective of destroying Europe, destroying the euro, destroying the Eurozone, and collapsing their localized economies, as well as reverting back to national currencies, has all been a part of the plan. This is when they will introduce and begin to introduce a new currency, a new economic system that they say will be available to you, the sheeple, the people, the peasants of the world, as your saving grace, as the new way to operate. So I wanted to do a piece, and I'm still working on, I want to do a micro documentary on this where I'm digging more into the evidence, something that's more compelling that can get the message out to the most people. But I don't think we have a lot of time, and I really do feel in my gut that we could wake up any morning now. Not only do we have an official declaration, an economic declaration of war, but I think at any moment we could wake up and see Israel launching a full-blown attack on Iran. Now understand how they're going to pitch this to you, how they're going to pitch this to Americans, because they're positioning this, again, as a unilateral strike by Israel. That couldn't be further from the truth. Any strike by Israel is a strike by the United States. And the way that they're going to play it off is they're going to show Israel making the first move. And then it's going to take a few days or a couple of weeks, and Obama's going to come on camera and say that the United States has decided to support our ally. And then we're going to deploy troops that are already there, that are already in Iraq, that are already in Afghanistan, ready to be deployed into Iran and Syria. And they're going to say that we're going to support Israel with our full military might of the United States of America. So understand, this has all been pre-planned. This is the collapse. We are living through it now. This is also the onset and the start of a global conflict I believe will be known as World War III. And it's going to cost millions of people's lives. Please get the message out. Please better understand what's happening around the world today. Understand what's happening politically. Understand what's happening economically. And understand that you, the everyday Joe, John, Jane on the street, American or citizen of the world, is being brainwashed by your country, is being brainwashed by the administration, is being brainwashed by the White House, our president, the bankers, the powers that be. The end goal is global war, is a complete totalitarian takeover of the world. They will be implementing a police state, they will be introducing a new global currency, and it's going to expense, and this is important, it's going to expense you, the 99%. The 99% of you are the ones that are going to be expensed. This war with Iran is very much economically driven. It is economically driven by the fact that the United States has passed the point of no return with quantitative easing, QE1, QE2, QE3, that Europe has passed the point of no return. We're seeing this with sovereign debt in Europe. We're seeing this here in the United States with a huge inflow of institutional money setting new record lows in the U.S. bond market. Some analysts and some of the major banks, including Goldman Sachs, are saying that the 10-year note here in the United States could touch as low as 1%. Throughout the coming months. This is giving us tall tale warning signs that there is no escaping what's coming our way. There is no escaping war. There is no escaping the economic collapse. Please get this message out to everybody you know, and please educate your friends and family so they better understand what's driving this global conflict, what's driving this war, and so that they fully understand that when Israel strikes Iran, this is also a strike by the United States of America, a direct strike. And war has been the goal all along. Just like we were propagandized into Iraq, just like we were propagandized and sold the lie and the bullshit that Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11, we are now being sold the lie of Iran's nuclear facilities and the fact that we need to destroy these facilities to prevent them from building a nuclear bomb. This is propaganda, this is BS. This is more about controlling the Middle East, controlling its natural resources, controlling its interests, and more importantly, continuing the destabilizing effect in this area. This is also about economic collapse, and this is also about the fact that the United States is clearly out of options. So is Europe, and so is Israel. I'm Christopher Green. You've been watching Green Wave TV, alternative media television, and I just deliver the Daily Wave. Hard-hitting and in your face, America.
Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. Breaking news. It is Monday, of course, July 2nd, 2012. I want to show you an article here from RT Russia Today. I've been talking about for several years now the threat that the United States is posing with Iran, countries like Syria, the threat and possibility of the Strait of Hormuz being closed, that would send oil prices sky high. This has all been a part of the plan. The United States, of course, has implemented sanctions starting June 1st. This is all reaching a boiling point. Now Iran, having nothing left to lose, is responding. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's government is now passing a bill to close the Strait of Hormuz. A tremendous amount of oil flows through that passageway. It's an extremely big deal. This could send oil prices sky high in the near term. Let's take a look at the article. This is Iran lawmakers prepare to close the Hormuz Strait. Iranian lawmakers have drafted a bill that would close the Strait of Hormuz for oil tankers heading to countries supporting current economic sanctions against the Islamic Republic. There is a bill prepared in the National Security and Foreign Policy Committee of Parliament that stresses the blocking of oil tanker traffic carrying oil to countries that have sanctioned Iran. The bill has been developed as an answer to the European Union's oil sanctions against the Islamic Republic. This is from Wikipedia. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow, strategically important strait between the Gulf of Oman in the southeast and the Persian Gulf. The strait is at its narrowest, 21 nautical miles wide. It is the only sea passage to the open ocean for large areas of the petroleum exporting Persian Gulf and is one of the most strategically important choke points. Now this is what's key. Approximately 20% of the world's oil, which is about 35% of seaborne traded oil, passes through the strait. So you can see why this is such a strategic point in a strategic area in the world for the trade of oil, and why this will have such a significant impact on the world's oil price. This is also a perfect time, of course, to pull the veil over the eyes of everyday Americans as we approach and enter the July 4th holiday on Wednesday. You know, a time of great pride, which many in our country celebrate, and for good reason, celebrating Independence Day, but this